Actually, it's in the building.
That's a long walk from here, yeah.
I'm not ahead of it. 6
We're like-
years ahead.
Good evening. I'm Providence Councilwoman Joanne Ryan. Welcome to the Committee on Finance regular meeting. It is Tuesday, November 25, 2025 at 5:31 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you kindly read the roll?
Chairwoman Ryan,
Present.
Vice Chairman Taylor is absent, Counselor Ingeborg. Present. Councilwoman Graves,
Present.
Counselor Sanchez.
Present.
We have 4 present and 1 absent, we have a quorum.
Okay. On item 1, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance repealing ordinance chapter number 2019-55, number 54, approved December 13, 2019, as amended in an ordinance number 2022-72, number 429, having taken effect on December 21st, 2022, entitled an ordinance establishing a tax stabilization agreement for each thousand Realty LLC located on Assessor's Plat 113, lots 232, 233, 234, and 235, 541 Hartford Avenue.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'm actually going to ask my members of the committee to combine items 1 and 2, waive the reading and substitute. I have a substitution for item 2, correcting a title from 2021-52 to 2021-50. And I have the document presented. So may I have that motion? Motion made by Councilwoman Ingeborg, seconded by Councilman Sanchez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay, so we have 1 and 2 together. You've already kindly read 1. I'm not gonna make you read 2. However, it is my understanding and belief that these matters are not ready to move forward. That's why I was waiting for the city solicitor to join us. I asked for a quick review today to affirm that we need a little bit more time on these, and unless you have discerned something else, and you'd like to apply that wisdom on this.
So as far as I can understand, nobody in the law department has reviewed these drafts. That it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad drafts. It might be,
Okay.
and just nobody has reviewed them in my office. Someone's been asked to review them.
Fair enough. Let's at that with that information, I'd like to make a request for a motion to continue both of these items for additional work, and they'll come before us as soon as we possibly can. May I have that motion? Motion made by Councilwoman Anderson, seconded by Councilman Sanchez. All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Item 2, 1 and 2 are continued, and thank you very much, Solicitor. I know I brought your attention to that late today. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you kindly read item 3 into the record?
Communication from His Honor the Mayor dated October 25th, 2025, informing the honorable members of the City Council that pursuant to section 302B of the Providence Full Moon Charter of 1980, as amended in Public Laws Chapter 45 through 50, sections 1 through 31, passed in 1987, bids this day appointing Eugene McCrae of 116 Bayard Street, Providence, Rhode Island, 02906, as a member of the Providence Public Building Authority for a term to expire on January 31st, 2028, and respectfully submits the same for your approval. Mr. McCrae replaces Mr. McLaughlin, whose term expired.
Please join us. Madam Clerk, Frank Dennis, simple. Much like the other side, but that's a good side. Madam Clerk, could you swear?
Do you sound the fact of prayer that the testimony you are about to give equal to the person nothing but the truth? Yes, and you say your name is set up for the record?
Eugene McCrae.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, Madam Clerk, we just noticed, my colleagues just noticed there's no resumes on these 2. Are they submitting?
No,
Okay.
that's what I see.
Okay, do you have your resume with you?
I do not have it with me, I have submitted it to the city.
Okay,
Would you like me to give it to you?
Can, Mr. Shuhei, are you in the room?
Yeah, yes, I
Do
am.
you have a resume that you could send?
Absolutely, it was submitted with the first.
It was submitted, I don't know why it wasn't.
Okay, so we have it,
Scanned.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I have one copy, I can go make copies if you'd
Okay,
like.
would you mind?
No, no.
Okay. Do we have resumes for the other appointment? Oh, it's a little.
No, yeah, we do.
Okay.
Just a letter.
If you could kindly do
Yeah,
that,
okay.
don't run too fast, no trip. We've already had it.
Yeah, we've already had it.
Okay, so we're, I'm gonna just say we're in recess right now, to give my colleagues an opportunity to review your resume. I'm sure it's stunning, and I want to see it.
I would expect nothing less than Ward 3. Thank you. Yeah.
Do I need to enter this?
No.
No, okay, all right, it just wasn't copied for us, okay. Mr. McCrane. You guys comfortable with the resume? You want just another second?
Give it them, yeah.
Okay, why don't you take another second? You good?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay. Councilwoman Grace, are you good? You need another minute? Are you okay?
No, I'm just, formulating my questions.
Oh, okay. All right, we're coming on a recess and we have a wonderful candidate in front of us that has been appointed to the Providence Public Building Authority. Eugene McCrane, you've been sworn in. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself? And now that we have your resume before us, we have more information about you. But share with us who you are, you know, what you've done in the past and why you would like to serve on this board, very important board, of the city.
Sure. Well, I've been a commercial real estate broker, for almost 20 years. My wife and I and our three children moved to Providence full time in 2021. She's from here. Her dad's one of 14 brothers and sisters that all live in Rhode Island. So we had owned a house, right next to Marion, across the street from my parents on 7th Street. For a number of years, so that she'd come back and see them, and then during the pandemic. She wasn't able to get back here and she wanted to for a long time move back here. So we moved and right in the middle of COVID with puppy and three small children. And we were able to find a house close by in that neighborhood, and we've been living there since. I work basically across the country in commercial real estate, do all sorts of different projects. I work on behalf of municipalities, I've worked on behalf of hospital authorities, worked on behalf of data centers and just all sorts of people, doctors, lawyers, engineers, and handling their commercial real estate needs. So I have experience with, like I said, I worked for the Public Hospital Authority in East Bay, which was the safety net hospital system, on their foundation board for 10 years. I worked with the CEO there, for 15, 33 different CEOs, so they have the same kind of responsibilities as that authority, so this seemed like a very good fit. Like I said, I live here, I turned off of the health system authority in California. Saying this was a very pleasant surprise to be offered this position. It's something I care about. I live here, and it's something I have a lot of expertise in.
Committee members, any questions? Any thoughts? Good question, Councilor Nandro.
One, thank you so much. This is amazing. So nice to meet you. I live on Fifth, so.
I
met
know
many
about a
times.
stop sign.
What?
Yes.
Time. Sorry, that hasn't.
Sure, I understand this.
One of your neighbors, they're actually asking about the same stop sign today. They were so-
It's, it's something
That's
that's all
cool spot.
Yeah.
How did you find out about this opportunity?
When Mayor Smiley was first running for office, I had a friend that was a mutual friend in common, so I've been a little bit active in his campaign. Like I said, I moved here full time and was interested in the city. And so, Matt Schumate was kind enough to contact me with this. I was on the Capital Center Commission.
Yeah.
My first meeting, was the meeting we decided that we were gonna disband that commission. So I had some free time.
Yeah. Awesome, thank you.
Great. Do you have it? I'm sorry, Councilor Graves.
What do you envision this job to be?
It's within the scope of what the authority's charter is, and so, my understanding is that we're meant to shepherd and to work with staff, for the resources that are provided by the city. Buildings that the city is responsible for, and make sure that their money is used wisely and well.
And what do you see, because I see Oakland and California, what are you bringing to the table because they have very different landscapes.
It's interesting. Like I said, I've lived here now 5 years.
Mhm.
But I've owned property in the city 10 plus. They're not as different as you would think. They're both cities that were very significant port cities that had significant industry that moved away. And while they retain kind of their geographic and cultural significance, you start to look at the fundamental problems and things that they're trying to resolve. Both have freeways that put right through them that caused all sorts of blight and trouble for the people that were there. So, I think part of it is perspective, another part is experience. I've worked in commercial real estate with buildings, with government budgets, with mandates, with an understanding of what things are supposed to do, what they're supposed to cost, how they're supposed to be applied. So those are the things that I would think that I would hope to bring. But yeah, perspective, and then I might send 2 of my kids to Glasgow High School. I hear all the time. I would love if we didn't have 95 running right through the downtown. I think getting 195 removed was something that's been transformative for the city. So I don't know, hopefully my opinions are good.
And what is this? Because our budget, well, we're kind of cash poor. How was it there in your city? Or where were you coming from,
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in San Francisco in the eighties and nineties.
Yeah.
And that was not, I mean, they didn't shoot Dirty Harry there because of Joe.
Mhm.
You know, those are places to transform.
mhm,
You know, when I worked for and was involved with the health system,
mhm,
that's a safety net health system. You know, its patient mix is 90% of people that are on government health insurance. And, you know, there's a movie about that health system. So cash and the proper shepherding
mhm.
of resources is an incredibly important part of it. So, I mean, yeah, constraints are important.
Sure. You said your voice kind of forced you to live.
For the record, since this is a public meeting, it really, I never said anything like that.
Yeah, you got that.
Oh, no, he didn't, he didn't say anything.
I think, as long as the city attorney agrees with me on that.
Not your lawyer.
The record will show that.
Record shows reflect.
But.
I've been married a long time, I don't just go into the next.
No, but throws on people, it really does.
Yeah.
If you drink the water, you get stuck, but, I think. My last little question is, um. We are really going through a little bit of a struggle now, like a lot of places, and, the housing and. It's really in dire straits, in the market is right now, we're becoming probably like one of the worst times ever, there's no housing. And we have people desperately in need of housing and, I know this is not really your focus, but. What do you see, how do you see us trying to get out of this? And like I said, this is not your focus, but this is a general.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so we got married in 2007. And so I met my my wife's grandmother, both of them, Baba. And, I was approved in 2005. So I've been coming here long. And I saw the progress of the city as it went through. And I also, you know, I remember watching TV and seeing, you know, ads for Hyundais at like $39 a month as a lease deal.
Mhm.
You know, we were in the heart of the Great Recession.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, the problem is when you're in it, you don't see the positives.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, there's an incredible housing crunch. And one of the reasons we moved here was to be in a place where it was affordable for our kids to potentially live.
Mhm.
And that's been a challenge in the Bay Area, it was a challenge in San Francisco where I grew up, where when I grew up, it was, you know, a nice neighborhood with doctors and lawyers. And a grocery keeper, you know, could send their kids to the same school that, you know, I went to what essentially is the class full of Tim system. And, you know, there were a lot of ideas about how to solve that problem. And the challenge is we constrained ourselves so much that there's a complete missing middle of housing. And so it means that people can't build 2, 3 unit houses.
Yeah.
Which are affordable to build. So there was a line that I heard once, from the California, Housing Builders Association. That they're lobbyist, and they said something, it's like, you know, it's not the typical lobbyist you would think would bring this pro wisdom, but they said it shouldn't be affordable housing. That's what we're aiming for the wrong thing. Everybody deserves a house that they can afford to live in.
Mhm.
So we build housing that we call affordable, we're not solving the problem, just there's not enough places for people to live.
Mhm.
So you know, the positive thing is when you go to the west end of the city, which has been kind of forgotten in a lot of ways economically, you start to see places that didn't have any economic activity on, that have new buildings going up that are housing, that are significant housing. I think the problem is that we go backwards to solve it. And we don't see the things that are going on that are currently solving. So it's a tremendous problem. It's been a problem in any metro where people want to live. The solution is to build more housing and to empower people to build. At least in my reading and my understanding. So I don't know how I personally can do that, but I think there should be a place for everybody.
Thank you.
Good, okay. Anybody else? Councilman Sanchez, any questions?
No questions. I just thank you for your willingness to serve. This is an authority that we have taken a lot of interest in, I would say in the past like year or so. Nothing to do with current members. I think we're all really excited, especially the new chairperson. But there has been issues that have happened in the past that were rising, that are rising up to the service level now. In terms of record keeping, some ethical questions, but I'm excited, with your addition. I think we're definitely moving in the right direction as a city.
Great, thank you.
Well, Senator, yeah. Well, I think that you're a wonderful pick. I commend the administration for identifying someone with that has the depth of knowledge and skills that you have. I think we're very fortunate to have someone like you on a very, very important authority. So as my colleagues have stated, it's important. Those buildings are critical. We've got a housing crisis. We're gonna look to make sure all of those buildings are pulling their weight, if you will. And I'm excited to have someone like you in that role that so you can assist us. As far as California is concerned, I've spent my entire career, decades in lending, mortgage lending, real estate lending. And we always looked to California because they did it before we did. So we're expecting that you're gonna bring some pearls of wisdom to your now hometown. May I have a motion? I think you're wonderful. And you certainly have my support. Motion to approve made by the great Ward 3, Councilor Antigua, seconded by
Ward 6.
Ward 6, Councilman Sanchez. Okay.
Do Ward 12.
Ward 12, I think, is a hearty second as well. All in favor? Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. You are approved by the finance committee. You'll go before the full council. Wherein you'll present yourself to everyone, for a full vote. Do we make it to, we will make it to the
Yes.
December 4th meeting. So feel free to contact council people. I know you have a favorite council person, you have Ward 3 council person, but feel free to, engage other council people and introduce yourself to them. I'm sure we'd like to be able to work with you as a partner in making sure our buildings are serving our city as best they can.
Sure, as long as everybody understands I was not dragged here.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, Madam Clerk, kindly read item 4 into the record.
Communication from Susan Zarita, Chairwoman, Providence External Review Authority, dated October 17, 2025. That in accordance with the City of Providence Ordinance, Chapter 18.5, Section 2, voted unanimously to recommend the reappointment of Mr. Frank Cowley Esquire as the Executive Director of PARA for an additional 2 years and submits the same for your approval by the City Council.
Please join us at the table. Can you swear, swear
Sure. This is right. And you don't pronounce your prayer in the testimony you have to give it the truth, you want to nothing but the truth.
Yes,
In this still your name, title of the record.
Clarence Foley, Executive Director of Fire.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Okay, so you are here on for reappointment to the as executive director of PARA. And it's 2 years and the council is has before it a formal letter from PARA from the vice chair, from the chair Susan DeRita, who is here with us today. Did you want to speak today, Mr. Rita?
No, I think all the,
Everything you want to say is in this letter?
yeah, everything is in there, the entire paragraph.
Okay, so, do we need to enter this as an exhibit?
It can be interesting and see if
Okay, I
it
think
works.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
So may I have first a motion, we have, in front of us all, I believe, yes, a letter, to the, Chairwoman Ryan and Finance Committee members, each of you, dated November 24, 2025, signed by Susan DeRita, Chairwoman, Vice Chair, Rankin, and members are all signing this, so it's a unanimous recommendation, if you will. Let's call this item 4A.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
made by Councilman Sanchez, seconded by Councilwoman Graves, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I have it. So we have this wonderful letter before us. It's pretty comprehensive and it's quite impressive. So I would just like to ask you to speak about what you've accomplished, where you see your leadership going the next 2 years, on what your needs might be and what your challenges, and how you're gonna solve them, more importantly.
Thank you, and I wanna thank all of you for being here 2 nights before Thanksgiving. I'm sure everybody's got a lot of work to do for the holidays, so I don't take that lightly, I know.
Some of us more than others.
You're right. Especially those of you that are hosting and having lots of family feed. So it's been my honor and pleasure to be the executive director of Para for almost 4 years now. And we have really, if you've been there from before I got there, not that I'm taking credit, but just showing the difference. Para was not really functioning, and it certainly wasn't in a state where the community that knew of its existence really trusted it to do any of the work that it's mandated to do. And so I think my greatest joy or pride comes from the fact that we've been able to stand Para up to be a respected and at least more relied upon resource for the community. To be that bridge between police and the community, and accountability and transparency in issues with the police department. So not just dealing with misconduct complaints, but also serving as a nexus to the community when they have questions about the policies and procedures that the police department uses. And then we can make recommendations about changing those and utilize the information we get back from the complaints and look for patterns and practice and issues that we can then suggest back to the police department that maybe there's a policy issue that they should change to affect the outcomes. So we've most recently interfaced pretty publicly with that ICE investigation that I think brought a lot of eyes and attention to what Para can serve the city as a resource in the sense of transparency. And especially, I think those are the issues that where we shine the most, in the sense that when the police department doesn't agree or isn't completely clear about the way they're handling something, and there's a disconnect with what we see and what they're doing, Para can serve as that objective body that reviews it and then gives an honest external take on what's happened, and provide that transparency to the community that otherwise, like, I think that's a good example, because that was something where the police department did not assume responsibility for their actions, in the sense that they didn't agree that they were in violation of the ordinance. They didn't agree that they'd done anything wrong. And after an objective investigation, we were able to publicly come out and just give a different, what we believe, fair and objective view based on our investigation, and let the public know about that disagreement on policy. And that led to this body taking action and actually changing the ordinance to make any inconsistency or ambiguity about what the proper action by the police department is a little bit clearer. And so while that's not necessarily a perfect fix going forward, it makes the next time that happens, it makes the process easier for everyone to call balls and strikes, so to speak. And if Para gets involved again, we'll have more clear guidance to give that feedback. Most importantly, I believe that we've made a significant impact on the police department having to deal with complaints publicly and changing the way that they deal with criticism. Without our ability to publicly speak about these complaints and to publish our reports and have that transparency portal, where we let the community know, like, the outcomes of these complaints and the decisions that our board comes to. They wouldn't know about any of the outcomes of the internal police complaints, other than whether they're sustained or not sustained. The facts don't come out, the details don't come out. And then what happens is that if the department reviews something and clears it, you just have to take on faith that, there was no actual issue there. And what we can do is actually shine a light on the issues that would, to date, I should say, we have a record number of complaints this year. We have 40 complaints, which more than doubles what we've had in the past. And that has to do with the public utilizing our service and knowing that we exist and us raising awareness. But on top of that, it's allowed us to look at, because every complaint we review, we give it to the police department, and then we audit and review their investigation. And so when there's a disconnect of what their take is versus our take, I think that's where the real healthy conversation happens, because having been a police officer and having been in that same role internally, I think what happens is that you have like rose-colored glasses when you're assessing a situation from the perspective of being in the police department. And so even if it's not intentionally trying to obfuscate the truth or alter the outcome, sometimes you can't see things the way an external source can see it. And that's why there's a lot of pushback of having external people look at it. And so I think, that's one of the things that we've been most successful at, is having those tough conversations with the police department, and bringing those issues to light so that we can get improvement. And we've seen that in, that case that they had with the, forgetting the street name, but with the loud noise complaint part, right? Where in the past, we had a similar complaint that we brought up with the police department and got over the issues that basically mirrored what that next complaint was. They didn't find any fault in the police officer's actions on that internal complaint. Well, we disagreed, we were very public about it, we had a lot of conversation about the proper way to handle those types of complaints. And then we saw that even though in that initial complaint, they didn't choose to change their approach to that initial complaint beyond issuing additional training, de-escalation training. When it happened again, they saw that there was a pattern and there was an issue with the way that they had the officers dealt with that situation, and they were a little bit more stringent in the discipline that they meted out to the officers, and admitted publicly for one of the few times that they've ever had that they did something wrong. And that's in no small part to our interventions, right? And so, I could talk forever, that's what lawyers do.
It's okay, excited to listen to you.
And I don't want to, but I think those are some of the most important things that, we've accomplished, and I look forward, there's a lot more work to be done. That's the bottom line. I mean, this year especially, our operations have been somewhat hindered by the budget cuts, but we know budgets are tight, and we took a significant hit, which precluded us from hiring some additional personnel that were on our authorized hiring list that I think are really important for us moving forward. Community liaison, an additional investigator, policy person. These were the things on track. And the reason we didn't hire right off the bat was because you have to build up to a level of like, it's irresponsible to hire people when you don't have a use for them yet, and it's a waste of taxpayers' money, which I'm very concerned about, and make sure that we are very fiscally responsible, which we have been. We've been under budget every year in operation since I've been in operation. But having the right people in place is a key component to success. And so right now we have a complement of 3 people. That is not enough, right? And going forward, we're gonna need an additional investigator. We need a community outreach liaison. We do community training. We do a lot of outreach with groups. We've been into colleges. We've got something planned coming up to go to the med school. We've been doing a lot of outreach on not just what we do as an organization, but to give people information as to how to interact with the police, to avoid issues, right? So First Amendment training, Fourth Amendment training, how to do how to act in a motor vehicle stop, what your rights are when you get stopped by the police, whether you're in a walking as a pedestrian or if you're in a car, there's a difference, and explain to people the way that they should interact in those and what rights they have, and then if those rights they feel are violated, how to behave to not escalate the situation and how to come to us
Do members of
afterwards.
the police, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Do
it's fine.
members of the police participate in that outreach and training?
No, so we don't do joint training with the police department. Not that we're opposed to it. I've reached out to Colonel Perez a couple times. We'd like to get into the police academy. I think we'd like to do a training block there. I know that they have a tight schedule, but I think it would be helpful for new officers to hear from us and to hear like what some of the most common complaints we get are and ways for them to avoid that as well. Because my goal has been, and Tara's goal has always been not to be adversarial to the police department, but collaborative, right? It's one of those things where we actually complement each other.
Mhm.
If they get it wrong, and we point it out, it's not for the point of an I got you moment, it's for the point of improving police services for the community. And if they get it right, we acknowledge that, and that increases their credibility in the community. So when they do something correct, and we get a complaint, and we exonerate officers, which most of the complaints go that way, if you're looking at percentages, that's a good thing for them. It just bolsters the fact that they're doing things correctly. But when they get it wrong, it hurts more to cover it up or be, say you didn't do it right, or you did it right when you didn't, because that hurts the trust that with the community, and then it's one of those things where. How do we trust you going forward again, right? When you're telling us you did nothing wrong. That's why the ICE situation, I think, was super problematic, and we're working hard to try to mend that fence, so to speak, going forward, just from a policy perspective, because that's a super sensitive issue, and it's something that the police department, I think, is better served by acknowledging when they didn't get it perfect and how they're gonna do it better next time than trying to just stick your heels in the ground and say, we did it perfectly and there's nothing to change here. But that's the whole point of collaborating, right? Is that we're not always going to agree, but we've constantly continued to press that relationship and continue. For 2 years, we didn't get responses for our recommendations from the police department. And with effort and time, they couple months ago did a dump of where they responded to all the open recommendations that we had, which is another huge step in the right direction. It just shows that they're acknowledging not only our existence, but the validity of the comments that we make. Even if you disagree, it's good to have it on paper so that we understand how they're thinking and how we can move forward to get better police service to the community. And we're not always gonna agree on what that looks like, but the idea is having a conversation, tough conversation is important. And, I have a very experienced investigator that we brought on to Para, which, combined with my experience and his experience in policing, we have close to 40+ years of police experience. So it's very hard to tell us we don't know what we're talking about when it comes to reviewing police process and procedure. And so I think that also lends credibility that didn't exist there with their willingness to work with us, when we do give them comments about what they're doing. What do we need to improve going forward, right? Bottom line up front is support and resources, right? There's a push, we have an office space, we've established ourselves as a professional entity. We'd like to keep those kinds of resources so the public, it's an independent place from the city. It's not in the police department. It's not somewhere where people are intimidated some of you have been there and seen the office. It's not the Ritz, but it's professional, and it's something that allows people that comfort of being a civilian organization that's dealing with these situations. And the funding, hopefully, as available, so that we can add those bodies and do more outreach, right? When you do outreach, it requires some money. If you're doing advertising, if you're doing pamphlets, if we're doing trainings and we want to hand stuff out to people, little cards and things, doesn't sound like much, but having the ability to print those things and having just some money there, and then most importantly is for hearings. So when we wanna do hearings, we need to have the ability to provide counsel. As the ordinance requires us that to people who are not represented, that requires funding, there's not a lot of pro bono. In that sense, to be able to provide that counseling, for those parties. And just to be able to have the staff to meet the increasing need. And that's it.
Well, I'm very impressed, but I was impressed with you when I first met you many years ago. I knew that you had the right temperament, background, skills, administrator, to make sure Para was successful. I've watched you through the years and you haven't let me down. I would love for you to talk a little bit about just a little bit, because you've spoken a lot and I want to give the committee opportunity to ask questions, but please talk about the implementation of the public portal. I think that's really an important component
Sure.
of what you are trying to accomplish, and, I'm wondering if that can't be enhanced. I see that it allows people to file a complaint, make a recommendation, assess data points, and view the status of complaints. It seems like an open end to me, and I'm wondering, you talked about money to create, postings or outcomes, or talk about outcomes, and I'm wondering if that site could also be used on kind of button up the project, like what came out of the review on. You talked about the interaction with the police chief. I'm just wondering if we can somehow document that through that portal so that people see things coming in, but also kind of a resolve or action steps for, what needs to be done going forward. So, kind of a lot there, but please
Sure.
enlighten us.
Yeah, so the implementation of the portal was a big advancement in terms of just being able to centrally collect the data and being able to hopefully use it for longer term projects, right? So the immediate benefit is it's an easy way for people to make it. What used to happen was they had to go find it on the website, and then they basically just sent an an email with information on a fillable form, right? And there's no database to collect that information, it's all manual. And so the establishment of this portal through an outside company, it's called Civil, it's oversight by Civil. It's a software that's designed for civilian oversight. And so what it does is it allows people to make those complaints compliments as well, right? So if you have something good to say, we want to hear that too, and we share that on the portal. Recommendations on the policies, any requests for audits of completed internal investigations that you had, and you're not trying to make a new complaint, but you weren't satisfied with what the police department did. There's an opportunity to do that through our portal. And we're gonna add additional functionality in terms of gang list appeals directly through our portal. So, as you're aware that the PCQRA gives Para the ability to serve as an appellate body for people who want to challenge their inclusion on the gang database list that the police department has. And so to streamline that process, we've created some forms and some ability for people to help them with that process going through the police department. We're gonna create a form on that portal as well, where they can just file a complaint directly through there, so we can add that data to our data collection as well. As far as integrating the things that you were talking about, it's not really possible with that software, just because the software manufacturer doesn't provide that functionality, but what we do already, and what we continue to do, is on our city website, we've improved the website dramatically, and we've created not only a place for people to be able to get to that portal through the website easily, but also post all of our reports and our outcomes and all of our recommendation letters and everything is posted publicly there. So that as soon as this body gets it and our board approves it, once it becomes a public document, we can put that on there, including the police department's responses. So when we get something from them, that goes on as well, so that people can just read the text directly. We don't put yet more information about the specific complaints, because the way the ordinance is currently written precludes that. We're hoping that to get some more leniency, and so we can have more transparency with the new, with the amendments that are proposed that, may be coming before we soon. So that is an opportunity for us to be able to provide more detail, publicly. You know, if you look at other states like Massachusetts, they have a very robust public portal when it comes to police oversight, where the state handles it from the post, and they put the names of the officers, the allegations, and all of the outcomes of the internal investigations on a public website that is searchable by anybody. And so, obviously the bar loves that, right? Defense bar especially, but it allows also for other agencies, so if an officer leaves one department and goes to another department, they can very easily see they have a disciplinary history in there, and they're much more open about sharing that information. Rhode Island is not so open, and so, we have some improvements to make there, but, that's something that we're working towards, and I think I've spoken with some council members about bigger picture items that we're also working on in para in terms of legislation. I've been working with some legislators about drafting some potential changes to the statewide legislation, post legislation about trying to emulate some of those advancements that Massachusetts has made, that would impact everyone on the state level, because I think, you're aware, para is the only civilian oversight agency in the state of Rhode Island. And it has the potential to serve as a model of how it can be done for the state. And that's really one of my big goals in being successful here is I think this needs to happen on a bigger scale. And as usual, Providence is leading the way in terms of being the experimental place to try it out. It hasn't been super successful in the past, and that's why I was super excited about this challenge. We've made significant progress and there's a lot more to make, and that's, we're the testing ground, and I want it to be successful because I want legislators to be excited about the idea of implementing this on a wider scale. Because nobody with that much authority should be self-regulating.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense, right? And so, but for people to want to adopt it and spend money on it and believe in it, that they have to see it work somewhere. Here, it works in other places, right? But that's not necessarily like, how is it gonna work here? And I think that we're pushing pretty strongly towards that end, that we're making it much more successful, and I see us getting to a place where we can't be denied. Right now, there's still pushback, but I want the mayor's office, I want the chief's department, I want everyone to 100% be on board with it, because they see the value in it as well, and that's where we're headed.
Wonderful. So first, let's, first, would you please, recognize that, Councilman Bishara has joined us.
So,
And committee members, do you have any questions, concerns? Please.
Two quick
Councilwoman
questions.
Edwards.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You pre-answered almost all of my questions, so thank you. I said two very minor ones. I think you had mentioned that there's changes to the para ordinance that you're looking to make, and I know I heard from one of my constituents asking me to support those changes. And do we have those? Like, where are those at?
Yeah, so they're currently in committee on ordinances.
Oh, okay, so they've been introduced, we're just waiting for the public hearing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and I mean, I've met with many of you on it back.
Yeah, we talked like 2 years ago.
Right,
Okay,
and it hasn't really changed much, there's a
Okay.
little, how it goes, with language changes.
Yeah.
And people
But it's
just
the
kind of,
same things we just
Yes.
discussed. Okay.
yes,
And then my last one.
Can I just add on that? Has there been a hearing in ordinance on it, or is it waiting to be heard?
it's waiting to be heard.
Okay.
And so January is the proposed, it's
Okay.
supposedly gonna come up in January.
Oh, good,
Okay.
okay, good. And then my other one, if you mind, is
Yes,
just a
please.
quick comment under bullet point, 2 about the, sharing information through newsletter. We just ask like if you have things that we should be sharing in the council newsletter, or some of us have our own newsletters that go out to our constituents, and mine has almost 2,000 people, which is more than 400 plus. I'd be happy to share that around, I think, the council office when they do their monthly newsletter. If there's resources you'd like us to be sharing with the community, that would be great to also get those on council as well, not just through the NCCS.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it on.
Do you share information like that with the council now, or not at all? Newsletter information or?
We'll usually just go through like city resources and just have them like add our brochure to the, 311 puts it on their mail out list.
So Councilwoman Anbar brings up a great point, and we all have, first of all, the office communicates for
Yeah.
all of us globally, we have a monthly newsletter. But each council person has their own newsletters. So I would suggest that if you want anything communicated, whatever that might be, to share it with our chief of staff and ask for broader distribution through the council outlets, because we can help, and I'm sure Para is a body created by the council, so we're intimately familiar with your work and intimately invested in your work, so we would be willing to help in that regard. So please recognize that as a benefit or a help for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any other?
No, that was
questions?
it. You pre-answered all the
Yeah, you
questions
were
I had. You were great, Mr. Thorough. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
Just comments real quick, thank you, thank you, Director, like the comments you said at the beginning of yours, I should always, have shared and had a lot of respect, have had a lot of, and continue to have respect for, Director.
I thought you said.
Cause yeah, I mean, I think you've described it in your testimony, it's definitely not an easy job, and there's sometimes. The perception of friction, but I think, knowing you and the type of, attention you bring to every conversation, is something that we should continue to invest in. Just putting out for the record, I think the community liaison position, I think would definitely take you, to another level in terms of, just community relations and getting you guys out there, more about, I'm pretty sure you came to one of my community meetings at one point, but even having like a designated person to, go to different places and interact in different community spaces would, continue to build that trust. Cause yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is, what we all want and support is, transparency and accountability, and yeah, anything that we can do to support those ethics, definitely just, let us know, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I've already made a notation that it's, that you're looking for budgetary support, so as we walk into the next budget, we'll keep that at the forefront of our budgeting process, and you'll be our chief over there. Okay, anyone else? Do you have, Councilman Pashadu?
Thank you. Good to see you.
Same.
Always been a fan of your work, and also you came out to one of the community meetings in the district, and like you just said, you've been out to other community members or city council members community meetings to talk about your organization. And I know that going into the last couple of years, the outreach in the community was sort of questionable. And my question to you is, have you increased that community engagement besides just the city council members? And then the other question is, I got three, and I'll just put them out there right away. I know the chairwoman just mentioned about adding some budgetary increases, or whatever that means, if it's for another personnel, or just to complement more experienced investigators or staff. Are you fully staffed right now, including your experienced investigators is still on board?
Yeah, we have one investigator right now.
Yeah.
And an administrative assistant, executive assistant.
So it's just
So
we-
our comp, like what we authorized, like we're not fully staffed at all. We're authorized a complement of a lead investigator and two investigators, a community outreach liaison, a policy advisor. None of those positions, they were taken away from a budget, so we understand that budgeting was tight this year and with the school funding and everything, and so. We're not complaining, we make do with what we have, but to do better and to do more. Right now, most of our focus, my investigators handling all of the investigations. I obviously have to review all of that, plus all the administrative work, plus the outreach, plus all the other stuff, so some help is super welcome. And would definitely go a long way. To your first question, we've significantly increased our outreach, especially in the sense of. Trying to reach out to some of the younger population and places where we can get large numbers of people to. Not just talk about what parent does, but useful information as well, besides, hey, we exist and you can come to us if there's a problem. But we also try to piggyback onto those meetings, information about. Educational components about how to deal with the car stuff, how to deal with the First Amendment check, how to deal with Fourth Amendment violation, or if you're dealing with the police in any sense. Ways for people to be successful when they have police encounters, and if they have questions about something that happens to them during the police encounter, how to appropriately. Deal with it on the scene, so as not to escalate the situation and then turn it into something that we're definitely gonna have to remove. A lot of times these things can just be resolved by people keeping a cool head. But if you don't know your rights and way to deal with it, leads to problems. And so we do a big education component. We did a grant, we did a Roger Williams, Johnson and Wales, we integrated with some of the athletic directors there so that we can get a lot of the sports people, because they have space in their curriculum for us, for people to go and speak, but those are larger groups of people that often college kids are partying. We saw a big PC issue, right, where like there was a big presence of people out and about and police, but not necessarily a lot of police interaction in that event, but that's a different story. But yeah, did I get all of it?
Yeah. Oh, can I, couple more?
Okay.
Yeah, in your summary here, you also recommended matrix and some supplemental amendments, or at least to the Providence Police, as a suggestion or recommendation. Have they adopted them, or was it just more a recommendation, and was there any follow through with that from the police department? What's been that rate of?
So the matrix,
certification?
the matrix is required by the ordinance, and so we've provided them with. It's like a working document, right? We provide them with our recommendation of what the matrix should be, and then to explain a little bit how that came to be is we looked at, there's a lot of other municipalities like NYPD, Colorado, Chicago, they have these disciplinary matrices. That they utilize, which are pretty extensive documents, and and the police department itself utilizes them to have a standard with guidelines, so that the officers themselves understand that if they commit this type of offense, level of offense, they're very likely to have this is the general outcome of discipline if it's sustained, if the complaint is sustained. And so there's the standard discipline, the mitigated with mitigating factors, and the aggravating factors, which is what makes it a matrix, right? There's a range. Providence Police doesn't do that. They don't have that even internally. They just have a policy that's very basic that says that they utilize a progressive discipline model, and it doesn't give any real guidance as to what the discipline would be. And so the ordinance requires them to enter into a matrix with para, so that when we make recommendations about discipline for cases that we sustain, that it's based on a model that they've already pre-accepted because they had a say in what is reasonable discipline guidelines. So it was one of the first things I developed when I got here with obviously our board. When I say I'm not taking credit for it, the board does the bulk of the heavy lifting on these things, and we put it before them, and I want to make sure that it's clear the credit is going where it belongs, but we developed that matrix with Hugh Clements, and then he retired, and we started over with Chief Perez, and did not get a response for nearly 2 years on that, with constant reminders about, hey, we need to have this matrix for us to be able to give you, we're still gonna go forward and operate and make recommendations because we have no choice. But then they have the ability to say, well, it's not in accordance with the matrix that we developed together, but they're the ones that haven't agreed to it yet. And so, we're going on 4 years now with no accepted matrix. We have a model that we based off the New York model that was significantly pared down from the 106-page document that New York has to be tailored to what para, the type of complaints that para reviews.
Yeah.
And it's like a 2-page, 3-page matrix, right? So it's simple and it's accessible and it's still in limbo. But so to that part, yes, and then all the recommendations, that we've made. We've gotten responses from the police department, they have not agreed to those recommendations.
Yeah.
In their official response. It doesn't mean that I don't hold out hope that we're gonna continue to make progress and eventually get agreement. We've had 2 policies where they agreed on some of the recommendations and did implement minor changes. And that's progress, right? I mean, that's an acceptance of like some feedback and change, we'll build them. You know, we'll, as we build that trust and we see, and there's more public outcry and pushback on them to cooperate and collaborate with us more. I know that we'll continue to make progress there. I know the union is very difficult about, you know, whenever anyone's critical of them. But we're not trying to be critical, we're just trying to be objective. It's constructive criticism, it's not negative criticism.
Wow. Then the last one is, you reference in terms of perhaps, recommending or filing legislation at the state level. Through that process, do you or your agency get some type of, agreement with, the city or the city council or comes through the legislative, committee here before it actually
Oh,
gets
yeah.
submitted to the state? Can
Yeah.
you just
No,
expand on
absolutely.
that process? So that way we can-
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You act alone or?
No,
as an
no,
agency,
not alone
or-
at all. So I've been working with Aaron quite a bit in June. So everything that we do in terms of policy and process, we're working with council staff. So nothing is like independent. I've had conversations with council with legislators who have reached out to me because they know I'm in this space and they have questions about these things like UBOR and things like that. So that's different as far as like people asking my opinion about something they're talking about, but as far as official, nothing has been submitted anywhere, it's all in the draft stage and basically the idea stage, because we're still working on making this model work better.
Yeah.
And so before it can serve as a state template, you know, we have to concentrate on getting it to a higher level of success here, that's my main focus.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor Grace.
Are there particular, is there a particular area or areas where you get the most complaints? And if so, are those officers being shifted out of those areas and into any other areas? And are you still getting complaints once they get shifted?
Right, so. Are you asking?
I'm not asking for a particular name.
No, are you asking like geographic
Yeah,
areas?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, so. We don't have enough data at this point, to be able to make like pattern practices. I would say that. We have had some officers whose names have come across more than once, right? But that's not sufficient to say it's a geographical area, that's more an individual operator person, you know, individual officer issue. I think that when we talk about long-term goals, is being able to have enough data points over time to be able to more accurately answer that question with certainty. You need more data to make the kinds of determinations that, you know, for example, this year we've had 40 complaints to date thus far. We have 450 something police officers with thousands of interactions in the community. It's not sufficient data with 40 complaints to be able to say there's a clear pattern in this geographic area or that geographic area. We're at the infancy stage with the data analysis because we just haven't collected enough data yet. Over time, we will have more and more data, and then we'll be able to statistically say, there's a pattern and practice issue. One thing I can tell you, with fair certainty about pattern and practice issues is body worn camera policy violations. Every single body camera that we've reviewed, we've identified violations of the policy. Every single case, and I have yet to see one body cam that completely adheres to the policy, right? And they're not all egregious violations, but they're still violations of the policy, such as when they're muted, the officer is required to say the reason for muting
Mhm.
and then announcing when they're putting it back on. I've never seen that, not once. It's in the policy, no one does it. So the practice is very different than the policy. And so this is something that we're trying to address with the police department. I mean, it's every case. It's not, I don't need 100,000 data points to know that this is a problem. When the ordinance hopefully changes and we have direct access to the records management systems, we'll be able to do a more detailed dive because we can audit existing information that's already there that we haven't collected. So that will open a treasure trove of information for us for review purposes.
Okay.
And we'll be able to have better answers to those types of questions, because that question that you bring up, I can do more of a data dive when I'm being able to look at the department's actual information as opposed to just what we've collected since we've stood up our database, if that makes sense.
We know. Crime,
Okay,
we
please.
know crime has gone down drastically throughout the city. How is that correlating with, the complaints of coming into you?
We've continued to have more complaints every year. Last year, we had about 20, this year we're already at 40. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's more complaints overall. It just means that people know para exists and are trusting to use our services more. So I can't say that that means there's more incidents of alleged misconduct over time, because again, it's a data issue, right? I need to be able to see trends over time, and we have that variable of para not having been a functioning organization for years, and now people are seeing and using it more. So it's hard to make the correlation. Is it more misconduct, or is it just more usage of our system versus going to the police department?
And one last question,
Okay, please.
how, when the people get caught and they're not getting trapped, per se, right?
Who is?
The people, when they're calling in, if I call in, I'm being protected, right?
To make a complaint, do you mean the complainants?
Yes.
They're allowed to be completely anonymous.
You know.
So there's an online portal, they have the choice of giving us their contact information, which is preferred. Because it's easier to follow up with them.
Mhm.
But if they choose to just give us a fully anonymous complaint, it's still reviewed, and no, they're not being tracked unless they provide the information to us.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
What's that? Thank you very much. Are you all set?
Yeah.
Before we take a vote, I would like to ask the members of para, the board members, to stand up, please,
Mhm.
and identify themselves for the record. And any employees, that support the work of this gentleman. Please identify yourself for the record. Oh, so you're back.
I've been multiple for John, best here.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Providence City Council, I want to thank you for your hard work. You're not sitting at the table, but your work is certainly extremely important, and your work supports this gentleman right here, and we're all very grateful for that. So thank you for your unanimous decision. The board members are here, and to the employees, thank you for your hard work. Thank you. With that, I'd like to ask for a motion. Motion to approve. Motion made to approve by Councilman Antigua. Motion seconded by Councilman Graves. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Matter passes. They're all set, my friend.
Thank you for your time
We'll
today.
go before the full council for vote, and I think you know where they go.
Oh, for my.
And I might just like to say, if you, have changes to legislation at a state level or ordinances at a municipal level, I think it's wonderful working with staff but I would encourage you to continue working with council people and state officials directly. It's always good for us to hear directly what the asks are, what you're trying to solve, what the problems are. And I think that, it will help us all make sure we're collaborating and working together. So just 2 cents. Motion to adjourn is made by Heather.
Second.
Second by Councilman Sanchez, all in favor, aye, any opposed, I have it. Thank you so much.